We got breaking news. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski saying that Chauncey Billups has withdrawn his name from consideration for Cleveland's president of basketball operations job. Of course, David Griffin and the Cavs parted ways in June, and now Chauncey has decided he's not going to take the job there in Cleveland. For much more on this, let's bring in Woj. And Adrian, what more can you tell us about that decision by Chauncey Billups?
Well, Chauncey let the Cavaliers know this morning that he was out of the process, that he had talked with Dan Gilbert and the organization, spent a couple days in Cleveland shortly after David Griffin was let go. And then there's been a back and forth here for the last over a week between the sides, and they never could come to an agreement on the parameters on the job. And I think, and Chauncey just issued me, I just got a statement from Chauncey that'll be posted here soon at ESPN.com. But essentially he's saying that the timing, he'd like someday to still run an NBA organization, but for him, the timing wasn't right, and he's going to stay. He's going to stay at ESPN and stay as an analyst here. All
right, you talk about timing. It's not great timing not to have your decision maker in place with free agency going. Where does this leave Dan Gilbert and the Cavs?
Well, they have an assistant general manager, Kobe Altman, who has been manning the phones, been running their trade talks, their free agency, and Dan Gilbert is very hands-on there, and that's part of the reason Dave Griffin is no longer there. And the owner takes on that role there, and that's the case in many other organizations too. But Altman is very capable, well respected around the league. He was deep in putting together the package that potentially would have brought Cleveland Paul George, that Indiana moved in another direction and did the Oklahoma City deal at the very end. So he's adept at putting together big deals. He's been part of that and David Griffin's staff. So for right now, Kobe Altman will continue to lead their front office, and now Dan Gilbert has to pivot and decide whether he wants to look in the direction of Altman or does he want to continue to look outside the organization to target someone else, because Chauncey Billups was Dan Gilbert's target from the moment that he let David Griffin go.
Hey, Adrian, obviously over the last few years, LeBron has been a pretty good recruiter there in Cleveland. We've heard that he's been less active with free agents this offseason. What should we read into that?
Well, they're not in a position to lure big free agents. They don't have salary cap space. They're capped out unlike anybody in the league. So they're looking at veteran minimum type deals, and there's no star quality that's available to them here in free agency. So they've been really more focused on the trade front here.
All right, so we shouldn't look deeply into that. It's just sort of how things present itself with their cap.
David, could you repeat that for me?
I was just saying that just to put a bow on that, it's basically you're saying that it's not as much what LeBron is or is not doing. It's just the fact that they don't have much cap room, and so there isn't much recruiting to be done.
No, there isn't. And listen, I think he's they're going to have an opportunity here to bring in veteran players who might, what's going to happen now is the market's going to shake out. And as players realize they're not getting the deals, the financial deals they thought they might get somewhere else, there'll be some players, Golden State, any of the contenders will be in a position to sign players at that veteran minimum who want to play with LeBron, want to play potentially for a championship. But free agency isn't quite to that point yet. A lot of those players are still looking for bigger deals. That usually shakes out over the month of July here.
Okay. Our NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, giving us the news that Chauncey Billups will not be in the front office of the Cleveland Cavaliers.